Dozens of people were injured after a Metrolink train crashed into an empty truck stuck on the tracks in Oxnard. A deadly Los Angeles police shooting was captured on video as officers struggled with the suspect on Skid Row. And pedestrians walking in the CSUN area should be careful because of heavy traffic, in spite of specially lighted crosswalks.
This is Valley View News.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Ken Harvey.
And I'm Julio Huerta. A Metrolink train derailed in Oxnard after striking a truck that was left on the tracks. The locomotive and several passenger cars derailed. 28 people who had been on board were hospitalized. 3 were in critical condition. Valley View's Jamie Pittenger was on the scene and has more in this report.
The 2005 Ford F-450 was burned almost beyond recognition as emergency crews arrived to assess the damage of the crash. The incident happened in the early morning near the corner of 5th Street and Rice Avenue. 4 of the 5 train cars as well as the locomotive were derailed, and 3 of them were then flipped onto their sides. Police say the truck was engulfed in flames and abandoned when they arrived. A man was found a short time later, about a mile and a half south of the incident, appearing to be disoriented.
The officer engaged in a conversation with this individual and was quick to determine that this individual was a produce truck driver and that he was connected with the vehicle that had been involved in the collision with the train.
The man is 54-year-old Jose Alejandro Sanchez Ramirez, a resident of Yuma, Arizona. Whether or not the driver will be charged for causing the crash has yet to be determined. Metro officials at a press conference were only able to give a small amount of information on the crash.
Metro officials say the train cars were being pushed prior to collision, but new technology on the trains allowed it to absorb the shock of the impact, which may have saved lives.
They call it crash energy management technology, and they began equipping the cars with it in 2010. Officials from the National Transportation Safety Board say the train was traveling below the speed limit of 79 miles per hour at the time of the incident. Few were able to witness the crash, but those who live close by heard the sounds.
5:45 in the morning in my home, when I listen the noise, like crash, something that, very heavy, but I know was a train because this is the second time happened.
A similar incident happened at the same intersection in June of last year. Mayor of Oxnard, Tim Flynn, announced at the press conference that bridge proposals have been in the works for this railroad crossing and others in order to reduce these kinds of incidents. The Federal Railroad Administration records show that there have been 13 major accidents at the intersection over the past 40 years. The mayor says bridge projects have been proposed for the last 15 to 20 years, but lack of funding is what has kept it at a halt. In Oxnard, I'm Jamie Pittenger, Valley View News.
And officials say an engineer aboard the train, 62-year-old Glenn William Steele, has died. He was the longest tenured engineer among Metrolink operators. A video has emerged of LAPD officers shooting a man in the downtown Los Angeles area known as Skid Row. We want to warn you, this video is graphic. Officers were called to this scene to respond to reports of a robbery. Officials say the man was involved in an altercation about 30 minutes before the shooting. Police say the suspect may have reached for a gun that belonged to the officer. Police Chief Charlie Beck told the news conference that the gun's condition indicated it may have been part of a struggle. Investigators are seeking information from additional videos taken by witnesses and cameras on nearby buildings. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene, and witnesses say the man was known as Africa.
A Ukrainian pilot has been on a hunger strike for 80 days. Nadiya Savchenko is Ukraine's first female pilot. She's been in a Russian prison for 9 months. She was captured in eastern Ukraine last summer and is accused of taking part in the killing of 2 Russian journalists. Supporters held a prayer service and march in Ukraine's capital to show support for her release.
North Korea has fired 2 short-range missiles off its eastern coast. It happened hours before a yearly military exercise between the U.S. and South Korea. North Korean officials deny the launch was preparation for war. A U.S. State Department spokesperson called the launches a threat to peace in the region. A spokesperson for North Korea says Washington and Seoul should be dealt with by merciless strikes. The missiles landed in the ocean between the Korean peninsula and southern Japan. The United Nations has imposed sanctions banning North Korea from using ballistic missile technology. North Korea frequently tests other short-range missiles off its coasts.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a speech to a pro-Israeli group in Washington a day before he addressed Congress. Republican House Speaker John Boehner invited Netanyahu without notifying the White House, and that caused some controversy. In his speech to AIPAC, the Israeli Prime Minister said he is worried about Iran's nuclear program.
Israel and the United States agree that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. But we disagree on the best way to prevent Iran from developing those weapons.
Netanyahu told the audience that disagreements between allies are natural from time to time.
Transportation projects are becoming a priority in the San Fernando and Santa Clarita valleys. Valley View reporter Lorena Mejia has more on the possible developments.
A recent town hall meeting covered important issues of public transit for the San Fernando and Santa Clarita valleys. The Los Angeles Metro Board gathered to share unmet transportation needs for potential inclusion in the upcoming 2016 Metro sales tax measure, known as Measure R2. One of the needs included in the measure is the relocation of the Northridge Metrolink station in order to combine it with the current bus services.
Metrolink right now boards about 45,000 people a day. We would like to double that over the next several years and to make it possible for even more people to get out of their cars and even more people to take the train. It is a great way to travel, and if you're a texter or a tweeter or any of that stuff, it's the one safe place you can do that. You don't have to worry about getting a ticket for it.
But although the board sees it as a great investment, residents of the valley have mixed feelings about it.
If you're going to build a system that's going to take people out of their cars, you need to build a system where they can get to your rapid transit to take it.
The current site of the station is a result of the 1994 Northridge earthquake, which is next to a power plant and in an isolated area. Measure R2 would move the station to allow transit routes along Reseda Boulevard to be accessible and cut travel time.
I think it'd be beneficial because I do go to school at CSUN. I also do work in the Reseda area, and it'd be a lot more convenient for me to kind of get to the station.
Moving the station would make direct connections to CSUN, businesses along the boulevard, and Northridge Medical Center. With the voters' decisions, the fate of these train tracks can change the direction of people's lives. Where I stand is a proposed relocation of the Northridge Metrolink station on Reseda Boulevard and Parthenia Street. In Northridge, I'm Lorena Mejia, Valley View News.
Drivers as well as pedestrians should take extra caution in areas near college and high school. Valley View's Savella Scalise has more on which Northridge Street is known for its pedestrian accidents.
Areas surrounding California State University Northridge have been notorious for traffic and pedestrian accidents. Streets surrounding the college have a lot of movement from students trying to find parking and getting to class on time. The intersection of Zelza and Lassen, as well as the crosswalk on Zelza and Superior, are both known to be accident-prone.
It was about 8:30 p.m. Heading home from the gym.
Lorenzo Gach, a sophomore at CSUN, was hit by a car on Zelza and Lassen.
I'm waiting to make a left-hand turn, waiting. Yellow light comes, and that's when I'm like anticipating to go, and here comes a car. So I can't really tell if he's slowing down or if he's going to speed up to hit the yellow light. He couldn't be patient for another light to go, and it was hard. I mean, hit me, ended up in the hospital.
At 3:15, Northridge Academy High School students finished their school day. Hundreds of students began using this crosswalk in addition to CSUN students. This is also big traffic time for Zelza Avenue. It is known that there is a higher chance of accidents when a crosswalk is not at an intersection. The Superior crosswalk has no official traffic light, but the cross button triggers in-pavement warning lights. The lights flash for 25 seconds. This warns drivers that pedestrians are crossing, but during the day, these lights are close to invisible. Drivers, especially the ones that are driving above speed limit, sometimes have to slam on their brakes when the lights begin to blink. Police say crosswalk accidents are more likely to happen at night when pedestrians can appear like dark shadows. When I press the crosswalk button, the lights are much more visible at night. This makes it easier for cars to see pedestrians cross and less likely for accidents to happen. In November 2013, there was a motion at the Northridge East Neighborhood Council Board meeting to support the effort to install a traffic light on Superior as well as a street called Halstead. It passed 12-0, but since then no traffic lights have been added. In Northridge, I'm Sabella Scalise, Valley View News.
A Placentia high school teacher appears to have committed suicide in a classroom. Placentia police say they responded to a 911 call from the high school. Police say the unidentified teacher was found locked inside a classroom. They say she had hung herself. Paramedics were unable to revive her. Students were dismissed from school for the day.
Federal authorities say they made the second biggest marijuana bust in U.S. history. They say agents found 15 tons of pot near a U.S.-Mexico border crossing in California. A truck carrying the drugs crossed into the U.S. through Otay Mesa. The shipment was labeled as mattresses and cushions. The hidden stash was made up of more than 1,000 plastic packages and has an estimated street value of almost $19 million.
The nurse who was the first person to contract Ebola in the U.S. is suing the hospital where she was infected. Nina Pham is a nurse at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas. She treated an Ebola patient in the facility and later tested positive for the disease. The lawsuit claims the hospital's parent company ignored Ebola warnings. According to the lawsuit, the hospital failed to provide proper training to handle Ebola.
The Los Angeles Fire Department says the history of African-American firefighters dates back to 1892. Brianna Ruffalo talks with a Los Angeles fire chief who's part of a change.
Separate lives, segregated stations, and selfless service.
Initially, I didn't want to become a firefighter. Having grown up in a fire service family and seeing some of the discriminatory or unfair practices that my dad went through.
Chief Daryl Osby has made his mark as the first African-American fire chief for LA County Fire. For Chief Osby, breaking barriers runs in the family. My dad was the fire chief of 4 departments in the state of California. First African-American fire chief of Inglewood, San Jose, and Oceanside. And he was the second African-American fire chief in the city of San Diego. The African-American Firefighter Museum says until 1956, stations were black or white only, and these men faced hate, intolerance, racial tensions, and segregation. As I stand here in the African-American Firefighter Museum, a fire station that when it was open was segregated, I'm humbled, somewhat saddened to think about some of the work conditions that those men went through. And if it wasn't for that courage, the odds are I probably wouldn't be standing here. Like smoke rising to the top, so is this California-born leader, with almost 30 years of service burning through race barriers and professional limits. It's a good feeling of seeing me as an African-American fire chief from the perspective of a young African-American male, because it gives them hope, it gives them a vision. And as the department continues to diversify, men and women of all ethnicities take the pledge to save your life. When you think about it, what more noble profession can you have than serving others, protecting their lives and their property? I can't think of any other profession. And over 100 years of their bravery are buried in historic Fire Station 30. Fire Station 30 is now the African American Firefighter Museum, which is one of the 2 black-only fire stations in Los Angeles. In downtown LA, I'm Brianna Ruffalo, Valley View News.
CSUN's Department of Physics and Astronomy will be opening one of its laboratories to the public. The laboratory located in Live Oak Hall will allow people to test household items for radiation.
Valley View reporter Courtney Williams joins us from Studio B with a professor from a lab.
Thank you. Today I'm here with Professor Dwayne Doty of the Physics and Astronomy Department. Welcome, Professor.
Super to be here, Courtney.
So can you just tell us a little bit about the displays that will be shown during the open house in the laboratory?
Our students get to be around some rather unique sources of radiation, and they all thought it might be a nice thing to invite other people to see what they're measuring in the lab. So we're going to have some radioactive cesium and some other natural radioactive items to show the public and the machines they work with also.
Okay, and I see that you having a service where people can bring in items if they feel those items have radioactivity.
Yes.
How will those be measured?
That's the most exciting part. Some people have things at home and they think they might be radioactive, and if they bring them in, we can perform one or two very simple measurements, and we can identify if the radiation is present and also even what type of radiation it might be.
What type of items are you familiar with people bringing that have some radioactivity?
I think some women have glass collections, and if they have Vaseline glass, it has a beautiful yellow color, it might have uranium present in it. Other people have some old camping equipment, and a Coleman lantern bag might be quite radioactive. Also, rock collectors oftentimes have petrified wood, and that has uranium in it. So it's surprising where you might find these sort of isotopes.
So what are some of the projects that your students will be creating in the lab?
Well, my students have carefully measured background radiation, Courtney, and they can also tell when things are higher than background radiation. So they will actually place samples in front of the detectors and get spectral measurements on them.
And is this the first open lab, or is this something that you guys have been doing?
The school has almost never done this before, perhaps just once, and we're thinking to have it something that happens often, involving the community. Community engagement is what we're interested in.
Okay, and this is free of cost as well?
It sure is at the moment. If some tests require more, we would notify a person, but the school's a little bit interested in helping out the surrounding community. Some people are worried about radon in their house, and that's something we might be able to test for.
Okay. And this will be offered every Thursday in the month of March?
Right. We thought we'd go the whole month because we might not get many people walking in the first time, so maybe we'll build up a clientele after a while if we do it every week for a while. So you really have 4 shots this particular month.
Okay, from 3 to 4?
Yes, 3 to 4. If you come a little early or hang a little late, that's fine too.
Thank you for being here, Professor. Now back to you.
Kevin Garnett purchased tickets for fans to Minnesota Timberwolves' next game against the Clippers.
We'll have more on this story after the break.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
Mommy, I don't feel so well.
Okay, so you wouldn't give yourself or your loved one poison, would you? Then why would you take or give counterfeit medications that may contain the wrong or no active ingredient? Counterfeit medications are out there. They can be ineffective and harmful to your health. Be a smart consumer and know your pharmacy, especially if you're purchasing medication online.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Now here's Jose Saenz with sports news.
Former baseball player Minnie Minoso has died at the age of 90. Minoso became a legend playing with the White Sox, becoming the first black player on the Sox roster. He was a 9-time All-Star and won 3 Gold Gloves throughout his long career. Minoso is one of only 2 men to have played Major League Baseball in 5 different decades. His career stretched from the 1940s until 1980. A USD District Court judge has overturned NFL suspension of Vikings running back Adrian Peterson. The court ruled that Commissioner Roger Goodell was acting outside his jurisdiction when he suspended Peterson for using a stick to spank his young son last September. It is unclear whether the All-Pro runner will return to the Vikings upon his return to the league. The NFL must decide if it will appeal the court's ruling. The Cal State Northridge men's basketball team has clinched the last seed in the Big West Conference tournament. The tourney is played at the end of the season and includes the top 8 of 9 teams in the league. The Matador women's team will also be playing. They currently rank in 2nd place. Both of the Big West tourney's winners will go on to play in the NCAA March Madness, which kicks off March 15th. Hall of Famer Michael Jordan just had his name added to Forbes magazine's billionaire list. Forbes reports most of Jordan's money comes from Nike payouts on his shoes and clothing brand, but his most valuable asset is the 89% ownership in the Charlotte Hornets. That's worth more than $500 million. When Steve Ballmer bought the LA Clippers, the value of all NBA teams increased and Jordan's worth pushed above the $1 billion mark. The NBA is mourning the loss of a man who played for the New York Knicks in the 1990s. 48-year-old Anthony Mason died after being in the hospital for nearly a month with congestive heart failure. One of Mason's greatest career achievements was earning the league's Sixth Man of the Year award in 1995. Players and coaches have sent their condolences to Mason's family through Twitter. The Lakers' winning streak has come to an end after falling short to Oklahoma City. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were not in the starting lineup for the Thunder. That didn't seem to matter as Andre Robertson got things going early for the Thunder. Ed Davis would try to bring the purple and gold back into the game with this slam dunk, but LA never found an answer for DJ Augustine. The Thunder took this one with a final score of 108-101. Kevin Garnett is thanking Minnesota Timberwolves fans for their support of his return to the team in a generous way. Garnett has purchased 1,000 tickets for fans to Minnesota's next game against the Los Angeles Clippers. The 15-time All-Star last played for the Timberwolves in 2007 but has been traded back to the team this year. Garnett says the response to his return by the fans has been nothing short of amazing. A race car stolen from the NASCAR circuit has been returned to its shop. Authorities say the car was found abandoned along a suburban road in Atlanta. It was stolen 24 hours earlier from a hotel parking lot where the team was staying before the race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. After it was found, the car was taken back to the team's Extreme shop in North Carolina. Authorities have made no arrest. That's it for sports. Ken, I hear you're a fan of Jordan's, is that right?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm probably responsible for about half his fortune.
Coming up in entertainment news, we'll see which movies claim the top spot in the box office this weekend. Now here's Araceli Solis with the latest in entertainment.
Legendary actor Leonard Nimoy has died at 83. The Star Trek icon has died after battling a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Nimoy announced last year that he had the disease, attributing it to years of smoking.
I quit a long time ago. Why is this happening to me? But it's a lesson that I had to learn.
He is most widely known for his performance on the classic TV show Star Trek that ran for 3 seasons and included nearly 80 episodes. A former contestant on America's Next Top Model was killed in a triple homicide in North Carolina. Officers found the bodies of 19-year-old Mirhana Puhar, her boyfriend, and their roommate. Police say the incident may have been related to illegal drugs found in the home. A suspect is in custody and being charged with 3 counts of first-degree homicide. Puhar was eliminated from the modeling competition in the 10th episode of last year's America's Next Top Model season. CSUN performed an annual V-Day show to spread awareness about the violence against women and girls. Ajwa Al-Judi has the story.
Welcome to our 12th annual performance of the Vagina Monologues.
V-Day is a global activist movement to stop violence against women and young girls around the world. California State University Northridge presented the 12th annual benefit performances of the Vagina Monologues.
We were worried about vaginas.
The Vagina Monologues is a theater production that helps advocate for women's rights.
In the end, they endure, they survive, and they share in the pride of expressing femininity.
And raises funds for charities.
In addition to the fact that the proceeds from the tickets support charities, I think it gives voices to a lot of different types of very diverse women that we don't often get to hear their stories.
You know, it really just raises awareness, and it sort of brings an element of humor while still really touching on the issues.
Slow down!
The performance was opened by a dancing group. Some monologues are based on one woman's story.
My first and only husband hated hair. He called it cluttered and dirty.
Others are based on several stories of surviving violence.
It's so empowering and just, you know, it's just women talking to each other about our experiences, and it just makes everyone feel like we can relate.
V-Day's vision is to see a world where women live safely and freely.
The awareness of this show and awareness of V-Day really sort of just promotes equality.
Each year, thousands of V-Day benefit events take place by volunteer activists in the United States and around the world. From Northridge, Ajwa Al-Judi, Valley View News.
For more than 2 decades, the Wildlife Learning Center has served as a sanctuary for exotic animals. Valley View News reporter Julio Huerta has the story.
In the San Fernando Valley resides a very unique family of exotic animals from all over the world. The rescue stories are as diverse and incredible as the animals themselves.
Some of them were illegal pets, seizures at the airport. We have a fox that came from a fur farm. Some came from laboratories. They all have different stories.
The center offers the opportunity for visitors to get up close and personal with the animals and in the process learn interesting things about them.
Does she have hands, you guys? Does she have hands?
Snake have hands?
No, exactly. So she can't cut up her food. So she has to swallow all of it whole, which is why she has to be able to stretch her mouth open and fit all that food inside of her mouth.
Visitors tell us how the tiny and cozy center is different from a regular zoo.
The zoo is a little bigger, LA Zoo obviously, but I think here the animals are more accessible. Yes. So for young kids, they can see them more clearly and not as much walking.
It is in a place like this where you will find amazing animals like this little guy right here, who got a second chance after having an accident that almost left him blind and unable to live in the wild anymore.
Zeus the blind screech owl that has recently become an internet sensation. People come from literally Europe, the other side of the world to come visit Zeus.
Would you like to see an owl?
Yeah.
Yeah. What animal did you guys like?
Turtles.
Yeah.
Turtles?
No, I see turtles.
He sees turtles.
Yeah.
The Wildlife Learning Center is a non-profit organization that relies heavily on donations.
It costs us about $2,000 a day, 365 days a year, to run the Wildlife Learning Center.
20 years later, the center continues its commitment to these remarkable creatures, and they invite everybody to get involved and witness this unique experience. In Sylmar, Julio Huerta, Valley View News.
The NASDAQ has topped the 5,000 mark for the first time in 15 years. NASDAQ is home to technology powerhouses like Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Intel. The NASDAQ went as high as 5,001. That's only about 2% below its all-time peak reached in the year 2000. Another big weekend at the box office. Will Smith and Margot Robbie took the top spot, earning $18.7 million with their con artist flick, Focus. But the R-rated film did end up opening below its low $20 million forecast. Kingsman: The Secret Service came in second place, grossing nearly $12 million. Third place went to the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. Rounding off the list of the top 5 was 50 Shades of Grey and The Lazarus Effect starring Olivia Wilde. The small Georgia town in the Walking Dead television show is up for sale on eBay. An investor is selling the 9-building town of Grantville at a starting bid of $68,000. The former mayor bought the town during the recession 4 years ago. The town appears in season 3 when lead character Rick Grimes returns to his abandoned hometown to look for weapons. That's it for entertainment. Ken and Julio, back to you.
That wraps up this edition of Valley View News. I'm Ken Harvey.
And I'm Julio Huerta. Have a great week.